This is Shive IT. I'm going to demonstrate backup as a service and data protection as a service using vRA from the Federated Hybrid Cloud from EMC. You can see I'm logged in here as the cloud administrator. Here's my service catalog and services, and here are my catalog items. This is my data protection leveraging Avamar. This is my storage services leveraging ViPR. And then we have some other things like a VDI session and virtual servers and vApps and VMs that we can roll out. All right. You'll also notice down here, I have a virtual center open so we can demonstrate the features and functions and the automation that's happening in the background. So first and foremost, we'll start with storage services. For your information, we also have ViPR running in front of our storage arrays here. Here's the dashboard for ViPR. What I'm really trying to show you is the power of rolling this all up into vRA. And in this instance, we're literally going to use ViPR as an API gateway or an endpoint for vRA. So let's go back to this. Because it's storage, and because there's cost associated with storage, and also there's a large amount of impact to any sort of activity on storage, both financial, potentially performance, as well as application uptime, etc. We're going to force our users, even though they're in the service catalog and it's tenant aware, I'm still going to force the user to put in their password credentials here to be able to log in. Mainly because storage is like the holy grail of a data center, and we can't risk any of it for a lot of different reasons. I'm going to ask which cluster we're going to use. I'm going to use the resource pod cluster. We've surfaced this in this wizard, potentially so maybe our junior admins of storage can go through our workflow so we don't have to use our higher level architects and engineers to do repetitive tasks. You'll see I'm going to select next. I'm going to go down to VMFS, so that's the type of volume I'm going to create. You'll see me select that. Go to next. I now have to select a storage tier. We'll use a lower end storage tier just for the purpose of demonstration. And we'll just create a 10 GB. Data store. All right. So we've now created that. That's going to kick off. In fact, if you want to see, you can literally see that that's in progress as we speak right now. Go back to the catalog. I'm going to go create data protection. We'll create, let's call it tier 0. 0. We'll point at the Avamar grid, tier 0 backup. Because it's tier 0, we'll set a daily schedule. This is when we're going to get our point-in-time restores. We'll keep it forever. Again, tier 0, and we'll retain things for 1 year. You can see how simple that was. I've literally surfaced the pieces and components I want the user to be able to leverage. And you'll see those things kicking off. You'll also see under requests, you'll see that both of these are in progress. For the time being, I'm also going to kick this off. Now here's what's interesting. These are both infrastructure activities. I'm not associating cost with those because where I put the cost is in the as a service component, right? So out here, you'll see the cost. Oops, not there. Out here, I'm going to put the cost at the as a service level. So somebody's going to spin something up and the cost is going to be here in this blueprint. So the end user is the one who's going to experience the cost burden. The infrastructure cost is really a set or something I can play with as an organizational team. What I charge back to the user is what's going to be put here. So in this case, this user is going to, we've built in a cost here, and this user's cost is dynamic, right? I changed to 2 machines, and you'll see my backup policies are available to me here. In fact, you can see tier 0 is available as we might suspect because it's in process. So we'll submit that. That VM is going to go out and be built. with that associated cost. If you're looking at the overall infrastructure costs, by the way, this is where we measure those costs. And we do it on an infrastructure category, not necessarily at an as a service category. Mainly because it's pooled assets on the back end, just like any shared service. So the way I would figure out my costs would be by coming back here and looking at my server hardware storage operating system. This gives me my hard numbers for what my data center costs are. Now, obviously, I can drill into these things if I want to and figure out, what my costs are broken out by year on server hardware or potentially by my storage array, whether it be data domain or Avamar or whatever that may be. Let me show you what that looks like real quick. So oftentimes people ask me, well, where are your costs? What's your as a server cost? Well, it's really in these platforms, right? If we had data domain out here or Avamar, you would quite literally see that cost built in. I haven't added that piece and function into the costing analytics. So this is where you would see those costs. In the catalog, my costs are associated with the as a service to the customer, not as an infrastructure cost. Hopefully that makes some sense to you. Here's where we're seeing the requests. This has been successful. You saw that in my tier 0 acquisition, and these are still being rolled out. I can also see things over here in my home. I can see what I've requested and what's going on for this particular user, this cloud administrator user. At the end of the day, I just wanted to show you how simple it was to be able to automate activities. You can see here in Virtual Center, I haven't been doing anything in Virtual Center, but all of these actions have been taking place based on the vRA automation and the requests I put into the self-service portal. Thank you for your time. Just wanted to show you a little quick storage as a service and backup as a service.